Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the internet's leading brand in audiobooks with over 150,000 titles to choose from. Support the Radio Random Network by visiting audibletrial.com/RRN Live to start your free 30-day subscription at Audible and receive a free audiobook download. That's audibletrial.com/RRN Live. Join us right here on the Radio Random Network every Friday starting December 12th for the show created for musicians and music lovers alike, Sounds of Louisiana, hosted by yours truly, #RDM, Russell Devin McLain, and the one and only Mudtooth. Our first guest back will be the one and only Grammy Award-winning Louisiana's own Wayne Toops. That's right, December 12th, 2014. For more information, visit www.rrnonline.com. I love only you. Take my hand. The Sounds of Louisiana is a proud member of the Radio Random Network and is brought to you by Racket Sound and Lighting and DJ Services, Adidas, and DraftKings.com. On the line with me right now is the director and writer of The Shoot, John Adams. John, how are you today?
I am doing great, and thanks for inviting me on the show.
Anytime. So you've been pretty busy here lately. You and Miss Toby, who is missing in action today. She's actually working.
Yep, she's off. She's off. She does voiceovers. She does really well in the voiceover world, and that's one of the things that helps pay for our movies. So she had to shoot away to do that, and left me here to have all the fun.
Well, nothing wrong with that. We'll talk about the voiceovers here shortly, but we'll go ahead and start from the beginning. How did you get started in the film industry?
Okay, well, my wife she went to Tulane to study acting, and when she graduated, she moved to New York City and became an actress. And she did feature films, independent films, and she was on a soap opera, The Guiding Light, for about 4 years. I was in the rock and roll world and the modeling world. And when we moved to Los Angeles, we moved here because I was on a TV show called Rock and Roll Acid Test that basically I was kind of a jackass rocker. And so we were in Los Angeles, and Toby was doing castings, trying to continue her career. And she was kind of having a hard time because at that point she was in her late 30s. And I had noticed from Rock and Roll Acid Test that I thought with the way technology was, we just might be able to make our own movie instead of having to, go through the industry and ask permission to be in a movie. I thought maybe, hey, let's try to just make one ourselves. So we as a family decided that would be a great adventure, and we bought an RV. Toby wrote a script, and we hit the road and lived on the road for a year and filmed our first movie, which was called Rumble Strip.
Tulane, that's Tulane University, New Orleans, Louisiana, correct?
That is, yeah. Toby is a New Orleans fan. She loves it, and I love it too, but she always goes back whenever she can because she loves it there.
Yeah, well, that's where we're located at right now. We're down here in South Louisiana.
Awesome, beautiful. You're lucky.
So you were talking, you said as a family. Let's make it clear.
It's me, my wife Toby, my oldest daughter LuLu, who's just turned 16, and my youngest daughter Zelda, who's going to be 11 in a month. When we decided to make a movie, both my kids kind of wanted to be actresses, and they were interested in they watched some TV and they thought that looked really great, and we always as a family talked about entertainment. We enjoy going to movies together. So when Toby and I came up with this idea, we asked the kids, is this something you'd like to do? And both of them were super enthusiastic about it and kind of played a big role in helping us determine what kind of characters they would play. We basically really like to treat our two young girls as our great friends, companions, and business partners, and they do an amazing job. And their point of view, since they're younger and more innocent, is incredibly important to us.
Yes, indeed. I can imagine that, especially with the way social media and things are
constantly changing these days. It seems like the younger generation keeps up a lot faster than, well, I know they keep up a lot faster than I do. It seems like something daily. Music's changing, the film industry's changing, everything's changing. But you talk about your younger daughter, Zelda. You and her actually was nominated for Best Actor and Actress.
Yeah, that was our second movie, which was called Knuckle Jack, and that movie took place in upstate New York, and it was about a man who had like some chemical and emotional problems, and he's asked to take care of his niece for the summer. And that was a wonderful experience because all of us knew what we were doing. On our first movie, Rumble Strips, we were just, 4 sheets to the wind and, just flying by the seat of our pants. But with our second movie, we had really figured out what each of our roles were and what we were good at, and it was a lot smoother and a lot more concise. And yes, Zelda and I were the main actors in it, but we all worked like crazy. LuLu did a lot of the filming, and Toby also did a lot of the filming and the acting. So we got a bunch of awards, and the movie was really accepted well out in the festival world.
With that said, I mean, just a quick question about the family life. How is it as far as keeping the balance? I mean, like you said, your children kind of like business partners, companions, but also you have to be mom and dad. So I guess at home when you're not out filming, how do you keep the balance? I mean,
I think the way we keep the balance is Toby and I try to do, obviously we do all the like hard, dirty, unglamorous work. And we also, when we're filming movies, we have a time limit about how long we work. Like, especially with Zelda, because when we shot Knuckle Jack, she just, she was 8. And the movie before that, she was 6. So, she needs to have fun. This isn't a job. Like, part of the reason we wanted to make movies as a family was so that it could be fun. And it could be a great experience that we all shared. So we have time limits on how long the kids work, and it's 2 hours. Like, after 2 hours, we stop, whether we have it or not, because that's when you start to lose attention, and that's when it starts to be not fun. So, if we needed to get things done, Toby and I would continue working, and the kids would, just do their thing. Especially like when we lived on the road, we were in an RV. They could just go wander off, do whatever they wanted, and while we kind of finished things, if that's what needed be. Also, my kids are soccer players.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're soccer players, and they're on club teams. So anybody out there who has kids on club teams knows that takes up, 50% of your time just right then and there. So they have a lot of outlets, so that the filmmaking part of our family is just one aspect of it.
Well, you also work as a composer, correct?
Yeah, I took my rock and roll experience from being in a bunch of bands, and as I got older, touring around, living in a van, doing all that kind of stuff, kind of started to lose its romance for me. But I love making music, so I was able to parlay my writing capabilities into writing for movies, and that way I'm at home with the family, writing music, showing it to them, they're a part of it, and I'm not out on the road playing shows at bars until 4 in the morning. So it was a perfect transition for me when I realized, hey, we're going to make movies, and I know how to write music, so I'm going to score these films, and I love doing it. It's a wonderful way to continue being a musician.
Well, yes, indeed. Well, let's go back a little bit about it and talk about your rocker days. Now, what was your instrument of choice? What was?
Well, my instrument was guitar, and basically, I was in a couple bands that were like very regionally successful, kind of punk rock party bands, and our show was a lot of crowd involvement and good times. And
yes, indeed,
we had a wonderful time, and our basically most of our money back in those days was made by selling our tunes to commercials or like to MTV for their TV shows and stuff like that. So, already I saw that there was an outlet in the entertainment world that went beyond just standing on the stage playing music.
I totally agree. Actually, that's my background. I've played live music for about 15 years.
Fantastic.
And then decided to launch this thing. But it's not about me, it's about you. But with the music thing, though, I mean, the psychology that's coming from that, and then putting it into making movies or anything. Do you see any similarities with that?
Could you ask the question again so I understand exactly what you're asking?
Sure. As far as the psychology from being on stage and playing music and pleasing the crowd, you have the crowd in front of you,
right?
And then you go from there versus making a film and writing. Is it any kind of
okay? That's a great
comparison?
Question. That's a great question, and it's so funny you ask that because it's something I've thought about so much. So when I was in a band, we grew, as you know, you're playing in front of the crowd, and you play 12 songs, every set, and you can tell which ones are turning the crowd on, and you can tell which ones aren't. And so as a musician playing on a stage, you begin to change your, how you write because you know what's turning people on out in the audience. And so like my band became more of a party punk band because we noticed we got bigger crowds, we got more enthusiasm, and we made more money when we played party punk songs, and people got really involved. So that was one thing that was really interesting about when I stopped writing for a crowd and started writing to bring in the emotions of the film. And that's what I think music is basically just supporting the emotions of a film. And so I do still think about turning people on out there musically that are watching the movie. Like, I want people to listen to the music and think, yeah, I like this tune. This feels really good. Like, I want that. I want that to make that crowd happy. But more than anything, I'm trying to bring alive, like, a theme that goes visually. So I'm more writing towards trying to match this sound to what's visually on the screen. So rather than, my focus being the crowd, I'm trying to bring that image to life. And that's a lot of fun. The first movie, I wrote the music after I had shot the movie. The second two, I realized it was a lot easier to write music in a certain style that I wanted this movie to have and then put the music over the images. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That was the answer I was actually kind of looking for.
Yeah, I learned from the first one. It was incredibly hard for me to write once the movie was edited. But it was much easier to edit, to say, hey, this scene's going to have a real rock feel. And then I'd have already 10 different rock songs that I'd already written, so I overwrote before I shot the movie. And then I could fly in these songs to see which one matched the feeling of a particular scene. And then I could cut to the music.
Yes, indeed. Now, as far as writing, whether it be writing film, let's go to the films. Just like let's say Rumble Strip. Where did the inspiration for that come from?
For the film or for the music?
For the film.
The film, it came from all of our movies are basically, we call experiences from our real life, and then just add some adrenaline to them. So it's like real life with a touch of fantasy, kind of. So the first movie was about a mother who had who got arrested for growing lots of marijuana, and in between getting convicted and sentenced, she takes her kids on an RV trip to prepare them for her absence. So that movie, being in the rock and roll world, you can imagine, and I'm sure down in New Orleans, you're going to totally relate with this.
Yes, indeed.
Life is complicated, and sometimes in life you make good decisions, and sometimes you make bad decisions. And what Rumble Strips was, it was like saying, like taking decisions that I may have, or my wife may have not made in real life, and saying, what would have happened if somebody got busted for this? So it's like, it's kind of taken real life situations and then throwing a curveball at them. And that's what we did with Knuckle Jack too. Knuckle Jack is, about a man who has chemical problems. And in real life, I did have chemical problems, and I don't anymore, but I did.
Right.
And so it was basically asking the question, well, what had happened if those chemical problems had continued, and I had, had to really take care of the kids? Like the reason I stopped my chemical problems was because I looked at my kids and I said, I love these kids. I got to stop, And so Knuckle Jack is kind of an exploration of, well, what had happened if you didn't stop? Right?
Right.
And then the last movie, The Shoot, which we just did, is basically taking two different situations that I had in my modeling life and in my rock and roll life and combining them. So the first situation was once when I was a model shooting like the Armani campaign, we were in Morocco, and we were always running into these odd characters, and I kind of fantasized about, well, what would happen if somebody came and tried to rob this shoot while we were out in the Moroccan desert? And all these eccentric, fashion types, how would they react? So that was one catalyst for the shoot. And the other catalyst is, at one point in my music career, an unsavory type person who asked me if we wanted a loan so that we could kind of produce our own music. And from doing music that if you own the production, you can make the most money.
Right.
And so this character was offering me, hey, I can get you a lot of money so you can record a great album and you can advertise and you can really invest a lot. You could really have a lot of capital, but the interest is going to be high. And I chose not to take the loan. But I always wondered, well, what had happened if I had taken the loan and I had an unsuccessful album? Then you'd be in a world of hurt. And that's what The Shoot is about. It's about these two concepts, being out in the desert and taking a bad loan and putting them together.
Yeah, well, you talk about that. I mean, and we'll go back a little ways. You was talking about being out and being in the rock and roll world and everything. And I know we're getting a little bit away or off the topic, but just for the listening audience to understand, when you're in, I guess when you're in a lot nightlife, it's there. It's always there. It's just whether you choose to. And a lot of people, a lot of rockers or a lot of musicians will experiment. A lot of them will use it for inspiration. But usually, in most cases, just like John says, it changes whenever you decide you have a family, you have kids, and you have more to live for than the nightlife.
Right.
And you just pretty much took that and put that energy into making featured films.
Exactly. And then taking from the experiences that I loved and so much, I mean, they were wild and crazy. Anybody, people who go watch rock and roll and people who are in bands, you meet a ton of characters, and they're all colorful.
You never lied about that, especially down here.
You know what? Toby always talks about Tipitinas. She talks about that, she was at Tipitinas all the time, and it was just a wild parade of color. It was.
It's a circus. I mean,
beautiful.
It is in a way, and then sometimes it's sometimes it's too much hustle and bustle. And in my case, I'm from a small town,
right?
So if I go in that scene, it's like it's like Jethro Clampett.
Right.
I have no clue what's going on.
Right.
I could be taken really quick. But
well, what you say is an important thing about what we used in The Shoot is it's kind of like you kind of can get over your head even in the rock and roll world because you are meeting all different kinds of characters. Everybody's hustling. Everybody's going different directions. There's a lot of, there are a lot of chemicals. There are a lot of, there's a lot of action going on. And sometimes you can take a wrong turn. And that's what The Shoot is about. Somebody who's a good person, two people who are good people, taking a wrong turn. And then it changing their life forever, They make one bad decision with one unsavory person, and now we're in trouble.
We're going to stop right here and take a short pause to pay a few bills. We'll be right back with the one and only John Adams. Stay with us. I want to talk to all the serious sports fans for a minute, especially the ones that enjoy fantasy sports leagues. If you haven't heard yet, DraftKings is sweeping the nation, giving away $200 million in prizes to thousands of winners. And they have daily leagues from fantasy football to college basketball. You can win real money 100% legal. Visit DraftKings.com to see for yourself. And when you sign up, use promo code RRNLive to get a free entry in the NFL $10 million giveaway. DraftKings.com, fantasy sports for real money.
Hot dang. Ever want to be on a wacky TV show? Well, here's your chance. Hillbilly Horror Show is having a contest, and the winner gets a walk-on role in Hillbilly Horror Show Volume 5. Hang out on set with the cast, and yeah, fellas, that means hanging with the lovely Miss Lulu featured in Maxim.
You smell like the inside of my mama's purse.
Head on over to hillbillyhorrorshow.com to enter and join in the fun. And be sure to check out Hillbilly Horror Show Volumes 1 and 2, now out on DVD at major retailers and Amazon.
Now, in any situation, I'm sure you run into different, like you said, different characters or anything. Now, in the film industry, have you ran into any problems with maybe seasoned writers or directors that maybe have tried to distract you or derail you?
Well, I think that's, okay, you just asked something that's so timely to where we are in our life right now. Yes, when you involve yourself in the industry immediately, and when and I'm not putting down the industry whatsoever. Like, I love movies. I love industry movies. The Hollywood industry is really cool, and I love what they do. But if you want to be on the inside of that, you give away a lot of your freedom. What Toby and I and Lulu and Zelda are really working hard at is making great movies, but staying on the outside, so that we don't have to ask a director to direct us, and we don't have to ask a producer to produce us, and we don't have to ask permission to do movies. We can do them. And now so far we've been lucky enough to be able to produce our own movies, basically be able to pay for them all, even though the last one had like 18, characters in it. It was, we're pushing the limits of what we can do, but we did pull it off. And we retain artistic control, and I think that really works for us. I see a lot of people here in Hollywood trying to sell their script or trying to get the right director or trying to get the A-list actor. And what happens is, a lot of the time, the project never happens. 5 years go by, and there's all that, for all the movies that we see on the big screen, there's thousands that never get made. So what we're trying to do is, as a family, make the movies we want to make and not ask permission. Does that make sense?
It makes plenty of sense. You're making your own way, and you're doing it your way. There's nobody telling you what to do, how to do, or where to do it at. You're doing it yourself.
That's correct. But we work with people, like, we're starting to get people in the industry who are interested in working with us, but a little bit more on our terms. Like, hey, we see what you're doing, we like it. How can we be involved? Rather than us going to them and saying, I like what you do, how can I involve you? Yeah, we're trying to build a solid foundation to attract people that like our art and what we're trying to do, and then we can do, and then we're interested in doing business with people, but we just want it to be genuine.
Right. I mean, when you start making your own way, and you start making waves, the shoot, it seems to be coming in at pretty good reviews. I mean, I've checked out the trailer and some of the things myself. I'm very interested to see the final result.
Yeah, the final result is wonderful, and we're extremely excited, and things are moving quickly, and it feels great. And we do have support, like we are getting support from within that are saying, hey, this is your third movie, and people are it's going real well. I don't want to over speak.
Right. Oh, I understand completely.
But things are going well, and we are getting, slowly getting help that now we can say, like, for example, on the shoot, we always pay for our own movies on the shoot. Now we have some people stepping in saying we'd like to help pay because we think this is going to be successful. So that's really interesting, and so fun. Because they're not saying, hey, we'd like to pay, and, you guys have to drive off in the sunset on a white horse with a 20-year-old.
Right.
And
I understand.
So it's really, that's what we're just trying to do. Is we're trying to, get people involved with us who really enjoy what we do.
Well, how do you handle your critic? I mean, as far as the critics go, how do y'all how do you handle that? I mean, if one comes in a negative review or anything, do y'all really pay any attention to the critics?
I think we listen to everybody. Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people don't like what we do. Absolutely. And I think that what we do as a family, we really, me and the kids, because sometimes things really sting. You get a bad response to something, and the kids are involved too, so they hear it too, or see it, or read it, and we all talk about it and decide whether we agree with their opinion, because that's all it is. Sometimes we do agree with their opinion, and that's something that we put down as, hey, let's change this in our next movie. Let's make sure we don't make that mistake. But then sometimes we say, you know what, we disagree with their opinion, and we did it the way we did it because we like the way we did it, and we wouldn't even want to do it the way someone else says we should have. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. A bad reaction stings, but it always makes us stronger.
Yes, indeed. Now, where do you see yourself or your career in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, the way we see it is, our goal is when we set out, when we made our first movie, we said Toby and I said to each other and to the girls, we all talked about it, we said our goal is to make 5 movies. And in 5 movies, this should be our job. Like, that means 100% of our money hopefully will be coming back from our films, right? And so now we've made our 3rd, and we feel like things are going really well. So our plan is, we think that this movie's going to do, it looks like it's going to do really well. And, Toby's already writing a script for the 4th movie, and I'm writing the script for the 5th. So we're on track. Our plan is kind of on track, which is don't stop. Make movies. Don't make a movie until you're ready. The shoot actually took a little longer than we thought. We wanted to make a movie every year, and it took the shoot 2 years because it was a little bit of a bigger production, and we didn't want to, let the horse out of the corral before it was ready. And we think we were smart to hold back and take that extra year. So basically, the quick answer is we want to carve out a niche in the filmmaking world and have people look for our films because they enjoy the way we see the world and they enjoy the way we portray it. So that's our goal, is to have some fans out there that enjoy what we do.
As far as Toby doing the voiceovers and everything, does that keep her? She stays pretty busy doing that.
Yeah. So I think the underlying question is, well, how do we pay for this? And the answer is, Toby does great in the voiceover world, doing commercials and doing characters, and I do well in the art world. I'm a painter, and I also do like commercials and stuff like that. So right now, the way we are paying for all this is Toby's great voiceover career, selling art, and me doing commercials, like just regular old commercials. And so we feel incredibly lucky because you only work, you don't go to work every day. That can be kind of scary because sometimes you don't know when your next paycheck's coming. And when we invest in our films, we don't know whether we're going to go into debt or whether we're going to make our money back. But so far, things have worked out that our kind of artistic world is paying for our movies. Our commercial world. And,
right.
We feel real lucky about that.
So you're already working on 2 scripts. You're working on one. She's working on one. Can you give us a little insight of what's to come?
Yeah, the script that Toby's working on is going to be a great script set in kind of the Old West during like the Gold Rush, and it's kind of like a psychological ghost thriller. And that'd be the best description of it, a psychological ghost thriller. It's going to be really fun, and it's kind of a period piece because both Toby and I really want to do a Western. So she's taking that one on, and then I'm writing a script actually about a man who has to deal with his father who's going through Alzheimer's, and it's kind of like a symbolic story about how we all kind of have an identity crisis. And so it's going to kind of take on more personal, more dramatic twist than both the shoot and Toby's, which will have the shoot has a ton of action, and Toby's will also have a bunch of action, and they'll be a little more kind of like a little horror driven.
Now, before I let you go, I got a couple more questions, and the first one is, if the film thing, if it doesn't work out, just where do you see yourself going? What direction would you take?
Well, okay, if our film dream doesn't work out, then the way we look at it is we're right where we want to be anyway, because that's why we want to do this with our kids. That's why we involve our kids, because, we just love our kids, and we want to do as much as possible with them, and that's why we involve them in this whole filmmaking process. So if this doesn't work out, that's okay. We lived a year on the road in an RV. We lived in upstate New York and shot a movie. Now we just spent a whole year together driving out to the desert over and over again so that we could film these movies and talk about, our own movies and talk about them. And, so if this is all a financial failure, it still pays us back millions of dollars worth of an amazing experience. So we really can't lose, because when my kids go off to college and they become adults, we haven't missed a moment with them. And that's what's most important about this whole thing.
That's a great mindset. This is out of the ordinary, but from being in the entertainment industry overall, sometimes there's more negative than there is positive. How do you stay so positive?
Because we're not in the entertainment industry. That's kind of like what we're doing is we're a family industry, and that has its limitations, but it also, we get to maintain our happiness and our sanity, because we can't get fired. We can't get told that we're too fat or too old or too young or too dumb, because we're just going to do it anyway. And so I think that's what keeps us happy and keeps this whole dream really exciting and fun. They always say, the chase is better than the catch, right? So all we're doing right now is the chase, and it's wonderful. There's 4 of us doing the chase together. So like you say, we might get the catch, we might not get the catch, but boy, we had a great chase.
That's great, man. And last, before we go, is there any links or anything you would like to share with our listeners? Maybe a date when the movie will be released? Okay, well, the shoot will be coming out in the spring, and we have like a distribution lined up already, so there'll be kind of a publicity blast when that happens. Right now, what we're doing is running the whole festival run, because basically what the festivals do is they help you get a ton of publicity, and they kind of get your name out there, and you get good press, and it's a way to really expose your film, and then it'll get released. But if anybody wants to follow us, especially for the shoot, they just go to Facebook, and we're The Shoot Film. And all right, I'll definitely share that in the show notes. They can follow us there, and all of everything that we're doing is, going to be. We're constantly updating it and having a lot of fun with that. Great. Well, that's about it for me today, man, and I'll look forward to talking to you again. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's The Shoot Movie. Okay.
So it's facebook.com, The Shoot Movie, and that's where people can follow us if they'd like to.
Certainly. We'll encourage the listeners to do that. I'll put it in the show notes. And anything else before you go? Any advice for any inspiring young actors, directors, or writers out there?
Yeah, talk to people like you, because you just asked wonderful questions and made me think a lot about what we're doing. And you're supportive, and this is what it's all about, and we just can't thank you enough.
For more information about the Radio Random Network, visit www.rrnonline.com. To sponsor or advertise on one of our weekly shows, contact Tanya at rrnonline.com. To leave feedback or just say hello, drop us a line at mailbag@rrn.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow the Radio Random Network on iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio, and connect with us on all of our social media sites by visiting rrnonline.com. Next Wednesday, we will be joined by TV and film actor Simi Anthony, and catch the return of Sounds of Louisiana with yours truly, #RDM Russell Devin McLain, and Mudtooth, and special guest Louisiana musician and Grammy Award winner Wayne Toops next Friday. Thanks for listening, and crank it up.